partnered by Time's influence.
At the Porter Prize event held in Mumbai, Sanjeev Puri of ITC was in conversation with Michael Porter to find out his views on Indian industry.
I understand that you're here now after a gap of, here in India after a gap of 14 years. So what are your first impressions coming to India? What changes do you see? And how excited are you about the future of India? What challenges do you think India faces?
The country is in a very different place than it was 14 years ago, so that's good. I remember back then we were still obsessing about electricity. That was the issue that everybody wanted to talk about. And I'm sure there's still improvements that can be made, but I think the country's gotten on a pretty good path. The growth is quite robust and quite impressive. The growth rate difference with China is closing, and maybe we'll pass China. I'm rooting for India. In fact, I'm really rooting for India. You have to win. We need this incredibly complicated democracy to win. I think there's a GDP per capita is growing quite robustly. It's quite impressive. And there's been many improvements. Many of the steps that the government is taking are really crucial steps. That said, although the momentum now is there, I think the momentum is moving in the right direction. Building an economy this large and this complex and this spread out into really a world-class, highly competitive economy, moving from the 5,000 GDP per capita or 5 to 6 up to 10 or 15 or 20, which is what you aspire to, is an enormously complicated, multifaceted challenge. So there's a lot of work to be done, and we'll be talking about many of those key steps. The business environment in India is better, but it's still not good. You rank 130th on the World Bank's Doing Business report because there's just still too much complexity in doing business here. It's better, but we got a ways to go there. The infrastructure's better, but it's not good. I think this move towards a sort of harmonized tax system is a really phenomenally important step forward. We got to create really one Indian economy where the states really, there's incredible trade and competition among the states. The only way a big country can really be highly productive and highly successful is it's got to get broken down into a lot of smaller units where you have leaders that are focusing not on this whole incredible country, but this state or this metropolitan area, this city. And you need to differentiate across the country in economic policy.
We have a lot of youth coming into the job market. And what we are experiencing is a jobless growth because of various factors, particularly technology, the impact of technology. And the marketplace is getting even more competitive. But there is a challenge that I think enterprises face today in the area of dealing with the societal challenge of creating jobs and being competitive. So what kind of strategic options do you think enterprises have before them that can try and deal with both the challenges of competitiveness and also addressing this issue of the societal challenge of employment?
India is, in a way, has a great strength because you've got demographic growth. You have a workforce that is continuing to grow. You've got young people. You've got capacity. A lot of other countries in the world are shrinking. But I would tell you that, from my perspective, a country with a GDP per capita at your level, if you can double your GDP per capita, all of these 1.3 billion people in India, there's lots of needs that they have. There's lots of services that they need to be better. There's lots of goods, lots of better housing, lots of better healthcare, lots of better everything. So there's a tremendous needs in this country. So what you've got to do is you've got to get the ball rolling so that you can start to create the underpinnings of rising prosperity and more of those needs getting met. And right now, that engine is not cranking as fast as it could, but it will continue, I think, to hopefully progress. You are now growing. The economy is growing. But you know, right now, the growth rate and the evolution of the economy is not spitting out quite enough jobs. But don't get caught into thinking that there's some kind of a fixed amount of demand in the world. And you know, we're all doomed because there's only so much demand, and who's going to meet that demand is, you know, we're going to fight each other. There's a lot of needs in the world, and there's a lot of needs in India. I think your real growth is, much of it's going to be domestic, and much of the modern economy is services, and robots don't do services, or not very many of them. You know, you need people to perform service functions, and so we can't get afraid of no jobs. We have to create, what the problem is, we've got to create the education, the skill in the workforce, to start that positive cycle of meeting new needs, meeting needs of more citizens. Therefore, we'll need more companies, more services, and more employment.
This whole issue about responsible competitiveness, or shared value as you call it, and there are, as you said, there are some fine examples around the world about such exemplary behavior.
Yep.
But I think given the enormity of the challenge that society faces, be it from a perspective of environmental degradation or creating jobs, I think this behavior has to be adopted much faster and by a lot more economic entities of the world.
Yep.
So how do you create markets that incentivize this kind of behavior and accelerate the pace? How do you get consumers? How do you get investors? How do you get policymakers? Or entire, you know, revolution that intensifies this behavior of creating shared value or responsible competitiveness, as we call it.
I personally believe that you know, what really changes the world to me, in my experience, is ideas. It's ways of understanding and thinking about things differently. And I think this is an area where I think if we can get the business community seeing the opportunity differently, you know, we in business can change everything. And this is my dream, that actually business has not been using its full power as an institution in society, and we can get there.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Discussion.
Pleasure speaking to you.
That's great.
Welcome back. Next up, industry stalwarts got together to discuss strategy, the idea of efficiency, trade-off, positioning and fit.
We have a fantastic panel in the sense that we have various industries represented here. Mr. Porter talked about strategy is what you don't do. And it is the trade-off between, in some way, operational efficiencies and the future. And that's my interpretation. I would like a quick comment starting from you, Mr. Revankar, on what are the strategic trade-offs that you are dealing with right now?
Now the strategy, if you look at the way we have developed our business model, we have focused on financing individuals who are owner-operators. And past 40 years, we have been consistent with that. And people who are buying vehicle for the first time, we have been focusing. Now, if you look at the way the world is moving on, everybody feels that now individuals cannot own the vehicle because vehicles are becoming costlier and costlier. I feel that every business has a particular opportunity to grow and build. And especially India being such a vast country gives a huge opportunity to build the business. And one thing what we have done very consistently is trying to have a strong culture in the organization. So a strong culture gives some kind of a certainty in how to deal with the uncertainty.
Coming to you, Mohit, real estate is a domain that is right now feeling the pressure. What is it that you've learned from your competition not to do? What's your strategy?
The critical thing which we have differentiated from our competition is the choice of model. So most people in real estate industry have been buying land and then developing on that. As an organization, we were very clear from day one that we want to enter into joint ventures. So that's a very, very different strategy. What happens in a joint venture model is that the capital deployment is much lesser compared to an outright purchase, because if you're buying land say for 200 crores, in a JV you can do 7 to 8 projects with the same amount of capital. The second critical thing which we have learned is most people have tried to diversify into multiple cities in India. Real estate is a very local business, so there have been not too many success stories of pan-India real estate companies. So we have very consciously understood what are the various things which are required to be done to become pan-India player. So we are following a very differential model in our strategy of going pan-India. And I can say that, basis our strategy right now, we have focused on the top 4 metros. And we are running each of these businesses almost like a local business with some framework or risk management from the center.
Rajesh, you come from the farm equipment sector. What are the trade-offs you're making as we speak?
Well, there are 3 types of choices that we make, and I'm talking about our farm equipment strategy holistically. One is what type of customer to serve, and here I'm talking about land size holding globally. The second is which markets or countries in the world to participate in. And the third is which crop cycle or which part of the crop value chain should we participate in. So these are 3 kinds of choices that we make in our business. In the first one, we've kind of consciously decided that we will have a cutoff on land size holding, which we will address. So there are, for example, in US, very, very large size farms, but we don't compete in that segment at all, and that's very conscious. We compete in the less than 100 horsepower segment right now, and we managed to get to a number 3 position there. The second is a decision on which geographies, and then we've identified 10 to 15 countries, 10 as the priority over the next 3 years, where we would have an on-ground presence, which means we will invest like we do in India in building brand, channel, and production, product development capability on ground in those countries. The third is which part of the value chain, that's the crop value chain, we will focus on. And can't share all the choices, but one which is in the public domain is the rice value chain. And to enable us to become globally strong in the rice value chain, we've done the acquisition of Mitsubishi's agri-machinery business in Japan. And that kind of allows us to build a center of excellence for rice value chain, where we will do all the product capability building out of Japan to address various global markets, which was part of point 1 and point 2. So really it's about choosing and making choices and not trying to be everything to everyone.
Fantastic, Rajesh. Very well put, very well articulated. Himanshu, as I said, you play in the industrial economy. Your customers are hotels, and so on and so forth. What are the trade-offs you're taking right now?
As rightly said, Anurag, Sealed Air is in the business of primary packaging, food packaging, and the institutional hygiene. Let me take some examples of trade-offs from our diversity business, the diversity care, which we call the cleaning business. Now, when you say cleaning, somebody would say, okay, what do you clean? Oh, can you help me clean the roads? Wait, that's not my business. we are involved in internal cleaning. We are focused on cleaning and hygiene. One question I get very often is, how's the Swachh Bharat helping you grow? The Swachh Bharat is more about waste management, open defecation, which is not our space. Our space is to create public places more hygienic. Hotels, hospitals, increasing the food safety at the restaurants, improving the efficiency of large public spaces like airports. So we made a clear choice that we are not playing in external areas, we are playing in internal areas. One. Second, what distinguishes us? The chemistry is not a rocket science. What distinguishes us is our people and an attitude of finding that chemistry working for you. Chemistry in action, not just on paper and a proposal. So what we find is stands us apart is an impeccable level of service we deliver, which is not only offer a solution, but also to say, this will work for you in this way and ensure reliability.
Customize, localize.
Ensure its reliability. So it's a bit of a sharp distinction, but in an area where technology is not the biggest differentiator, your differentiator is the people who deliver that solution and who customize the solution to meet the specific needs of the customer.
Fantastic, Himanshu. Mr. Singh, how has this kind of too many choices in the experiential economy impacted your strategic imperatives or trade-offs?
The choices that we have made, particularly as far as our customers go, we are serving families who want to vacation regularly, and we are very clear that we are not in the business hotel segment. The key issues in hospitality industry are debt and occupancy. We have taken a conscious call that our business model, which is a vacation ownership model, both the OPEX and CAPEX is funded by the customer. It's a subscription-based model. So these are the trade-offs that we have made early on in our business. Our occupancies are upwards of 80%. Going forward, we are very clear that with the advent of these aggregate players like Airbnb or the others, we will be deepening our experience, and the experience that we deliver to our members at our resorts, the variety of experiences, and to each members of the family, experiences tailored for them. Because that is what will set us apart going forward.
Personalization. Now, one common question to the panelists is, and we can start with you, Rajesh, and then we can talk about strategy, and as Michael said, the CEO is the chief strategy officer. His or her job is to make sure that you stay true to that strategy, you refresh the strategy, and you make sure it's implemented downwards. Today, if I talk to a promoter, if I talk to a CEO, the single biggest thing on his or her mind is how to deal with a new environment, how to make sure that your compliances are in order. So how do you make sure in this new, evolving, compliance-led business mindset, you stay true to strategy?
I think as a part of the Mahindra Group, we always are most committed to compliance and statutory compliance standards and the highest standards of corporate governance. So everything that we do, that's a kind of overriding value in the organization, and everyone in the organization works around that. From a GST kind of standpoint, it's a change event which I think businesses have been wanting for a very long period of time, and I think it's going to be a very good enabler to the future.
Mohit, continuing the same vein, RERA, how does that regulatory change the strategy, or it doesn't change your strategy?
Any of these changes, whether it is on compliances, RERA, GST, are basically environmental changes which would either pose as an opportunity or a threat to a business. If I look at RERA specifically, it's been spoken a lot about. It's a major regulatory change which is happening in real estate industry, and for organized players like us, who are already engaging in extremely good ethical practices, this is an extremely welcome change. So the big change which we feel that would happen in real estate industry is a large-scale consolidation of players because of RERA, because the compliances required for RERA are extremely tough. So that gives us a huge opportunity as an organization to scale up and pick up market leadership in the market. So for us, it's an extremely welcome change.
It's an opportunity.
It's a
because
huge
it
opportunity.
aligns with what you've been doing in the past.
Absolutely, it's a huge opportunity.
Himanshu, again, you are part of a large MNC. For MNCs, certain ways of doing business are hygiene. But has the environment in last 8 to 10 months in some way changed your strategy?
I think environmental changes in a way test the robustness of your strategy.
Fantastic.
Is your strategy a function of, is your strategy built around arbitrage, which is to take an example between two market differentials and trying to take advantage of that, which can be one approach to doing business, but that cannot give you a sustainable competitive advantage in a business. So to me, like Mohit just said, RERA can be an opportunity for some and threat for some, depending upon how your business model was placed. Similarly, any change in the environment, whether it's a GST or the way we are being taxed or the cash handling and things like that, can be both a stressor or an opportunity.
Mr. Revankar, would you like to respond to the fact that strategy needs to be consistent?
Yeah, one thing is strategy need to be consistent throughout to have a customer experience. We are being monitored by RBI because being financial services and they are our regulators. But when you lend money, we lend to a lot of individuals. And there we need to give them all information in vernacular language, talk to them and service them as per the RBI's expectation. So that is a challenge. And these challenges like the demonetization, a lot of our collection used to be in cash. We used to collect more than 1,000 crores per month in cash from as a receivables from the individual operators. And we have to shift them. We have to educate them to move on to digital or check. It became a little challenge. But okay, now the cash is coming back and not much of issues are there. But there is another challenge of not receiving more than 2 lakh in a cash for us. So these are the compliances issues which we need to adjust our business. I think, I don't say business model, the way you conduct the business and educate the customer. So these are all the small things which we need to do. But being very consistent and communicating with the customer, we should address the issues.
Mr. Singh, I want to ask a question. What are the 2 or 3 lessons you can learn about leadership and strategy from, let's say, Donald Trump or Narendra Modi? You can take your pick.
As far as Modi is concerned, I will come to Prime Minister Modi. I think he is consistent. Over the last 3 years, there is consistency in whatever he is doing. He certainly is reformist. He has shown that through the actions like demonetization, GST, which is coming. And there are various other schemes that have been launched, which is about whether it is Swachh Bharat, whether it is Make in India, whether it is Skilling India. There seems to be a drive to change things, and status quo is being challenged. So to that extent, this is the fundamental of leadership, steering the nation towards a new India, which I think is the contours of which are now emerging. If I were to look at Trump, I think we don't understand him well enough, but
he doesn't understand himself well enough.
So that's okay. He seems to be inconsistent. That's something that is coming out clearly. And one thing that we may want to probably learn from him actually is that he's raising some fundamental issues which plague American society.
Thank you for being a great panelist. I hope you had real practical takeaways from this panel. Please give Rajesh, Mohit, Himanshu, Mr. Revankar and Mr. Singh a big round of applause. Thank you.
Next week, Michael Porter explains the concept of shared value and sits down for an in-depth conversation with Wilfred Olber, managing partner of Roland Berger, while Rakesh Sarna of Indian Hotels and MK Anand of Times Network gave their keynote speeches.
Times Influence Initiative.